Hello, welcome to my channel. I have this tiny Star Wars kit from Bandai, and it comes with an ATST and a Snowspeeder. So let's open it up and check it out. It looks like we have a bag full of sprues. Just cut that open. We have a set of stickers, which is not ideal because they'll peel off easily. Decal would have been better. We have a total of 5 sprues, 2 for the Snowspeeder, 2 for the ATST, and 1 flight stand. The instructions are printed on the inside of the box lid, and this is a good cost saving method. And the other side of the box has some additional information, plus a QR code for the digital instructions. And this is the entire content of the box laid out. So let's get cracking. I'm starting off with the ATST, and there are less than 20 parts for each model, so they shouldn't take too long to assemble. As per usual, the part needs a little bit of a clean up before assembly. And this is basically a snap kit, but I prefer to also add a little bit of glue to ensure it stays together. As you can see, I'm working on the head and I've already assembled the turret. And now place on the side armour panels, and that's followed by the back, top and the front. And despite the incredibly small size, these are very detailed. And thankfully when assembled, the seam lines pretty much disappear, which is a good sign of a well engineered kit, and is typical of the high standards of Bandai. Next I assemble the main body, and this is basically the chassis which will attach to the legs and the head. And here you can see the ball joint which will allow the head to swivel. I'm popping the guns at the other side of the head, and these are very tiny and very fragile. And then the head is popped onto the ball joint, and it moves quite freely. And lastly I attach the legs. The joint for these are cut in a particular shape, though they can only go in one way. And this allows the model to stand freely, but only just. And with that done, let's move on to the speeder. And this starts off by attaching the top and the bottom half together, with the engine slotted into the rear. And once again, even though it's a snap kit, I do prefer to add a little drop of glue. Next I slot the cockpit into place, and that's followed by the engine housing on both sides of the wings. And then the guns are assembled and glued into place. At the rear I slot into place the tiny harpoon gun, and that's followed by the 2 tiny engine exhaust ports. And that's the assembly finish for the Snowspeeder. If you want the Snowspeeder to be airborne, which I do, it comes with a flying stand. It comes in 3 parts and is very quickly assembled. It has a ball joint on top, so you can position the speeder in whichever angle you want. And now I'm going to add some details. I'm going to keep the grey of the plastic as the mid-tone, and then I apply a black panel liner for the recessed areas, and then for the highlights I dry brush on some white grey. I use this for both vehicles, but bearing in mind that the Snowspeeder is a whiter colour than the ATST. The ATST is finished pretty quickly, as it's all one tone, but for the Snowspeeder there are some additional details to paint on. And that includes the harpoon gun at the rear, as well as the engine. As you can see, these details are very tiny and will probably require some clean up. When it came to painting the windows, I tried something different. I had a go at using some panel liner to fill in the space, as this method would leave me with some nice clean lines. But I still ended up having to touch it up using a tiny brush and some black paint. Some of the panels also needed to be painted in a light grey. These are both on top and underneath the speeder, but since we won't be able to see underneath, I'm not going to put too much effort into that. I decided to display these vehicles on a custom made base, so I dug out my box of scrap PVC board. First of all I position where I want the flight stand, Then I filled the board up with plenty of scrap pieces to get a rough shape, and this is all glued on with PVC cement. And I'm building it up predominantly around the speeder, because that way it will be close to the ground and will also help hide the flight stand. And I also painted the stand white to help blend it in. Next I mix up a batch of sculpture mould, and this will give me the snow covered ground texture. And this stuff is great for when you don't want your surfaces to be smooth and boring. I have a few minutes of working time before this stuff starts to solidify, and once I'm fairly happy with how it's looking, I'll put it one side to dry for 2 or 3 days, so that way I'll be able to paint it and sand it if need be. And while the base is drying, I finish off painting the final details on the Snowspeeder, including the orange markings on the back. And after that I return my attention to the base and give it a bit of a tidy up by sanding off any of the loose material. And after that I poured on some PVA glue and then used a thick brush to spread it around evenly across the base. This will both seal in the sculpture mould and give me a sticky surface to sprinkle some snow on it. And this snow product is called Snow Micro Balloons from a company called AK. And this stuff is like a very fine icing sugar. And I carefully sprinkle it across the whole base. And I even dab on some PVA glue to the feet of the walker. And I did that into the container so get some fake snow on it. And now it looks like it's been out in the wintry elements. And now it's time for assembly. So place the speeder onto his stand. I used a couple of beads of clear Gorilla Glue to secure the AT walker to its base. The only problem with this stuff is that it will take a little while to set, but super glue won't adhere well to the new snow covering. So there we have it, there's our little diorama assembled. The Snowspeeder is able to change its position so it can be tilted up, down and left and right. So if we move it to the right angle, I can make the stand almost disappear. So this was a nice little kit to make, and as usual Bandai always make very accurate kits, which go together with very few problems. Thank you for watching. Don't forget, if I can do it, so can you.